Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing great. So today we will be doing part 2 of the Indigo. We have completed with the part 1. If you haven't watched my video, please go to the part 1 so that you understand what is the tuning of the chapter, what is the flow of the chapter. To understand better, you need to go to the part 1 and then you can come back to my part 2 video. So let's get started. Where we have stopped, we'll continue with the chapter Indigo now. Okay. The official felt powerless without Gandhiji's cooperation. They felt very powerless, as I said you before as well. Now, what happened later on, we'll see that. The government was baffled, means it was confused. The government was totally confused. The prosecutor means the against person is known as the against lawyer is known as prosecutor. Okay, requested the judge to postpone the trial. Why? Because they were also scared looking at the crowd. Apparently, the authorities wished to consult their superiors. Gandhiji protested against the delay. Gandhiji said no, there should not be any delay because we have come here to fight for our right and there should not be delay. He read a statement pleading guilty. He was involved, he told the court, in a conflict of duties on the one hand and not to set a bad example as a lawbreaker on the other hand to render the humanitarian and national service for which he had come. Now Gandhiji is saying, yes, I am guilty. For what he is guilty? Because he disobeyed the law. He disobeyed. The law was what? That he has to leave the Champaran. But he said no, he will not leave. So he's saying, yes, I am guilty. And I was actually in between. At one hand, I wanted to serve for humanity, based on the humanity, and second ground, I had to obey as well. So I was in between. So that's the reason I had to disobey. But I agree that I'm guilty for it. Gandhiji was saying, and he's saying, I'm ready to render the service. I'm ready to pay the whatever the penalty is. He was involved. He was involved. He told the court in a conflict of duties, as we said. Now, he disregarded the court to leave, not for want of respect for lawful authority, but in obedience to the higher law of a being voice of conscience. What he's saying, that he don't wanted to, he disregarded the order to leave. Why? Because obviously he wanted to serve as humanitarian as well. He wanted to stand for the poor farmers as well, as he found that this is also his duty at the same time, and to respect a lawful authority as well, but in obedience of law of being the voice of conscience. Now he was feeling like, though he don't wanted to, but later on he was feeling right now कि guilty, not for the law authorities but himself. खुद की आत्मा हम बोलते ना, that he was feeling bad. Voice of conscience. He asked the penalty due. He said, whatever the penalty is there, let me know. The magistrate announced that he would pronounce the sentence after a 2 hours recess and asked Gandhiji to furnish bail for those 120 minutes. Gandhiji refused. The judge released him without bail. Now the judge was saying that it's 2 hours recess, and for this 2 hours recess, you don't run away, so you need to deposit some money. But what did Gandhiji said? No, he refused. Still, he was, bailed, released without. He was released without bail. When the court reconvenes, means what? Restarted. The judge said he would not deliver this judgment for several days. Meanwhile, he allowed Gandhiji to remain at liberty. Rajendra Prasad, Brij Kishore Babu, Maulana Mazharul Haq, and several other prominent, means well-known lawyers had arrived from Bihar. They conferred with Gandhi. Let's move further. Now Gandhiji was saying, what would they do if he was sentenced to prison? Means what the lawyers would do if he would be asked to, he would be put behind the bars, prison. Okay. Why? The senior lawyer replied, they had come to advise and help him. If he went to jail, there would be nobody to advise and they would go home. Now they are saying they have come to just advise and guide Gandhiji. And if Gandhiji is behind the bars, they would just go back. What about the injustice to the sharecroppers? Gandhiji demanded. The lawyers withdrew to consult. Rajendra Prasad has recorded the upshot of their consultations. They thought amongst themselves that Gandhiji was a totally stranger, and yet he was prepared to go to prison for the sake of the peasants. If they, on the other hand, were not only residents of adjoining district but also those who claim to have served these peasants should go home, it would be shameful decision. They accordingly went back to Gandhiji and told him they were ready to follow him into jail. They said they then later on gave a thought, like Gandhiji being a stranger standing for the poor farmers, and we being a part of this society, being a part of this area, still we are not able to. So this is wrong. So they said no. If now they decided amongst themselves, if Gandhiji is going to jail, even they will follow them. They will not leave the sharecroppers this way, and they will actually take a stand for for the humanity as Gandhiji is taking stand. Now, the Battle of Champaran is won, he exclaimed. Who, Gandhiji? Then he took a piece of paper and divided the groups into pairs and put down the order in which each pair was to court arrest. Several days later, Gandhiji received a written communication from the magistrate informing him that the lieutenant governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. वो केस को ड्रॉप कर दो. Civil disobedience had trumped the first time in modern India, means has won for the first time, for the victory is there for the first time in India. So this is nothing but there was a discussion going on, if in case Gandhiji is behind the bars, behind the prison, so even the lawyers Rajendra Prasad and everyone would follow him. They would not leave it, and they would also take a stand like Gandhiji is taking stand. Okay, let's go further. So now what happened, Gandhiji and the lawyers, they proceeded to conduct a fair-flung inquiry into grievances, means what are the problems and all that, everything inquiry of the farmers. Depositions by about 10,000 peasants were written down, means many have done it, and notes were made on the other evidence. Notes were made means they were trying to get all the information whatever they could, and that this could help them for this case. Documents were collected, the whole area throbbed with the activity of investigators, means it was full of the activity of investigators and vehement process of the landlord. In June, Gandhiji was summoned to Sir Edward Jade, lieutenant governor, means he was been called again. Before he went, he met leading associate again, laid detailed plans for civil disobedience if he should not return. Still, he planned, what if I don't return? If I am been behind the bars, means he was just making the plans for further as well. Gandhiji had protracted interview with lieutenant governors who, as a result, appointed an official commission of inquiry into the Indigo sharecropper situation. They put an official inquiry. The commission consisted of landlords, government officials, and Gandhiji as a role representative of peasants. Gandhiji remained in Champaran for an initial uninterrupted period of 7 months. Uninterrupted means he was continuously for 7 months, and then again for several shorter visits. The visit undertaken gradually on entreaty of an unlettered peasant in the expectation that it would be the last few days occupied almost a year of Gandhiji's life. Every time they were expecting like now up the case complete ho jayega, they would get their share and they would be happy and everything was there. But still every time there was some or the other delay. Obviously this was a huge fight against injustice as well, so that's the reason it was taking a lot of time, but Gandhiji never gave up. He served for humanitarian. He took a stand for the poor farmers. Okay, he took a stand against the landlords, Britishers. Okay, and he also took a stand against for injustice. Okay, so that's the reason it occupied almost a year of Gandhiji's life. This case occupied almost a year. Okay, let's go further. Now what is happening is the official inquiry assembled a crushing mountain of evidence against the big planters. Big planters means what? The landlords, the Britishers. And when they saw this, they agreed in principle to make reference to the peasants. They agreed that we will refund whatever is there, because they saw that a large group of people are now this large group of peasants have come together. Now we have to agree. But how much must we pay? They asked Gandhiji, kitna pay karna hai? They thought he would demand repayment in full of the money which they had illegally and deceitfully extorted. But what from the sharecroppers? He asked, but only 50%. There he seemed abandoned. Means adamant means what? He felt that कि अब गांधी जी ने 50% बोल दिया, मतलब इससे कम में तो बिल्कुल नहीं मानेगा. Okay, they understood this much. Who writes Reverend J.S. Hodge, a British means a person. Okay, he thought that ki ab nahi manega. Missionary and Champaran, who observed the entire episode. He was watching all the episodes, means what was going on everything in Champaran district. Thinking probably that he would not give away, the representative of planters offered to refund to extent of 25%, and to his amazement, Mr. Gandhi took him at his word and thus breaking the deadlock. Means what happened now? Now they thought ki Gandhiji will not be ready in 25%, and this planters, what they had a plan that if we say 25%, again this case would be dismissed, and again it would be rescheduled and all that, and this way the case will go and on, and we don't have to pay as well. But what Gandhiji did over here, he played smartly. He agreed to 25%, and this way, with the before any of the problems arises, the different problem arises, the more of problem arises, deadlock means he finished off the deadlock over there only. This settlement was adopted unanimously by the commission, means everyone, it was accepted by everyone. Gandhiji explained the amount of the refund was less important than the fact that the landlords had been obliged to surrender part of the money, and with it part of their prestige. He's saying this part of money and all that is less of important to him. More important is what the landlords who think themselves, the British who think themselves that they are god to this poor farmers, and now with the money, now even they are feeling they are respected, that they are proudness and all that is also going down, the prestige is also going down, the fake prestige actually. So that is more important to me, that they are realizing what they are exactly and how wrong they were doing to this poor farmers. Therefore, as far as the peasants were concerned, the planters had behaved as lord as before the law. Means they were behaving as if they are god for these peasants, poor peasants. Now the peasant saw that he had right and defenders. Now he understood, the peasant also understood, poor farmers, that even they have some right and defenders. He learned courage. What did he learn? Courage to fight for themselves. Events justified Gandhiji's position. Within a few years, the British planters abandoned their estates, which reverted to peasants. Indigo sharecropping disappeared. अब थोड़े सालों बाद क्या हुआ, ब्रिटिशर्स ने देखा कि उस पे कुछ काम ही नहीं हो रहा है, इंडिगो का बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. So what did they thought? They gave away the land also. To whom? To the farmers only. It went to the farmers only. The one who is cultivating, it goes to that only. तो अब क्या हुआ, लैंड भी गई, पैसा भी गया 25%. Understood? Gandhiji never contented himself with, means he was never satisfied with a large political or economic solution. He saw the cultural and social backwardness in Champaran village and wanted to do something about it immediately. He was feeling the problem is not about their economically or social this backwardness, but the problem is about their culture they are living. So he thought there should be done something for the lifelong of them. He appealed for teachers. He said teachers need to be called. For what? To teach them something. Now, what is that? Mahadev Desai and Nahari Parekh, two young men who had just joined Gandhiji as disciples, and their wives volunteered for the work. Means they all joined for work. Several came from Bombay, Pune, and other distant part of the land. Dedas, Gandhiji's youngest son, arrived from ashram, and so did Mrs. Gandhi, means wife of Gandhiji. Primary school were opened in 6 villages. Kasturbai means taught the ashram rules on the personal cleanliness and community sanitation. Health conditions were miserable. The health conditions were really poor. Okay, Gandhiji got a doctor to volunteer his service for 6 months. Gandhiji also got a doctor that he needs to volunteer the service. Now, 3 medicines were available: castor oil, quinine, and sulfur ointment. Okay, anybody who showed a coated tongue was given what? Was given a dose of castor oil. Anybody with malaria fever received quinine plus castor oil, and anybody with skin eruptions received ointment plus castor oil. Means this way the medicines were given as per the whatever the disease they were having, or as per the problem. These 3 medicines were prescribed by the doctor according to their situation. Now, Gandhiji noticed the filthy state of women's clothes. It was very dirty. The women's clothes were really dirty. He asked Kasturbai to talk to them. He asked that you should talk to them. One woman took Kasturbai into her hut and said, "Look, there is no box of cupboard. Where should we keep our clothes? How can it be neat and clean, right? The sari I am wearing is the only one I have," she is saying. During his long stay in Champaran, Gandhiji kept a long distance watch on ashram as well. He sent regular instructions by the mail and asked for financial accounts as well. One, he wrote to the resident that it was a time to fill in the old latrine trenches and dig one new one, otherwise the old one would begin to smell bad. Means sanitation ka process karna padega, otherwise it will go bad. And the state would also be bad for the villagers people and health would affect adversely. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhi's life. What I did, he explained, was a very ordinary thing. I declared that the British could not order me about in my own country. He said, this is my country and British cannot order me about my own country what I have to do for them. Okay. But Champaran did not begin as an act of defiance. It grew out of an attempt to alleviate the distress of the large number of poor peasants. Now it was not only for the war or something like a problem in case they won, but also for the better lifestyle, better living, sanitized lifestyle, and good condition. Gandhiji said they wanted to do. He wanted to do for the people of this village. This was typical Gandhi pattern. His politics were intertwined. Means he was not that interested in politics and all that. He was most interested in cultural development of the people and the living lifestyle of the people to be better and should be actually more in. It should cleanliness should be followed. That was more important. The health and all should be taken into consideration with the practical day-to-day problems of millions. His was not a loyalty to abstractions, it was a loyalty to real. He wanted that my loyalty is to the living of the people, living very nicely human beings. Okay, and everything Gandhiji did. Moreover, he tried to mold a new free Indian who could stand on his own feet and thus make India free. Earlier in Champaran action, Charles Ferrer Andrew, the English pacifist, the peacemaker we say, who had become a devoted follower of Mahatma Gandhi, to bid Gandhi farewell before giving a tour to duty to the Fiji island. Gandhiji's lawyer friends thought it was a good idea for Andrews to stay in Champaran. What did Gandhi friends say? That Andrew should stay over here. It is a good idea. Andrew was willing if Gandhiji agreed. He wanted that Gandhiji should agree, but Gandhiji was vehemently opposed. He said no. He opposed to this. You think that this is unequal fight? It would be helpful if we have an Englishman on our side. आपको लग रहा है कि सही है, but according to me it's wrong, because after all he is an Englishman. Why do you need his help? Why do you want to depend on him? You should depend on yourself instead of depending on others. This shows the weakness of your heart. The cause is just and you must rely upon yourself to win the battle. You should not seek a prop and you should not seek a dependency on Mr. Andrews because he happens to be an Englishman. He had read out minds correctly. He understood. He read out the minds correctly. Rajendra Prasad comments, and we had no reply. Gandhiji is this way taught a lesson and self-reliance, Indian independence, and help to sharecroppers well all bound together. So beautiful chapter how smartly Gandhiji dealt with the people over there, all the people of Champaran, the peasants or the poor farmers. He didn't only give them their rights but also help them to develop their life, their living humanity on the basis of humanity. He considered each and everything. The main cause was what? The cultural cause, the living cause. So what did he do? He tried to find out the solution for the lifetime, not just for that. He didn't go back to his work after winning the case of Champaran. Right? What did he do? He just stayed back and he understood that there is a root causes. What root causes that we need to teach them. So he he asked teachers, doctors and everyone to come and to guide them so that their life is better and they have a hygiene life as well. So this is the way he gave the humanitarian. He served the humanitarian. So I hope this chapter you have understood well, and this is a really beautiful message for each one of us that just winning the case or winning something is not important. The root cause should always be seen, whatever it is, whichever situation it is, right? Yes. So I hope you have understood this chapter well, and for any further doubt you can reach out to me in comment box. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do subscribe it. And if you want me to come with such kind of videos every time and increase the videos as well, you need to motivate me, and you can just simply motivate me by subscribing to my channel and also asking your contacts to subscribe to my channel. So till then, take care, bye bye, have a good night, and see ya. Stay tuned. English with Bhavana.